When he reports a funny smell, but no smoke, no heat, not yet. When my son says, don't yell at Dad. When he says, if I yell at Dad, he won't call me next time this happens. I'm not allowed to make a scene. Don't say anything to him, Mom. I'm telling you. These instructions as he's running, as the alarm blares, as I don't see the road, as I am speeding to my son. When my son is running down, oh, not clicking, sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay. When my son is running down and down, when I am speeding and imagining and my bare foot is on the pedals, when my son is outside, he is outside, he is outside now. When I pull up, when my son walks to me casually, skin bathed in the shifting lights of the fire truck, his neighbors holding leashes to many small poodles. When he says, I can't believe I left the cats, Mom. I left the cats. When my son's father runs up from the restaurant where he'd been having dinner, where he missed what I learned were several calls from my son. The alarm is going off. He's home alone. What should he do? When I say nothing. When I say nothing, because my son has told me to say nothing, when this is what he is saying as he's running down the stairs from or into or under a possible fire. When an alarm is ringing, empty rooms, 15 floors up. When I have been imagining this and many other nightmares for a long, 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 long time. Over-worried, overreacting, overprotective, so many ways for so many things to be over. When I imagine. When my son goes with his father to talk to the firemen, when they come back and say they've given me all clear, a false alarm. Maybe it was the neighbor, the one who's been causing trouble lately, the woman who has been burning sage, the woman with cancer. It's all the drugs. She's been causing trouble lately. When my son wants to stay with his dad, it's fine now, Mom. You can go home. When I imagine a woman dying, burning sage into the air she shares with my son, rooms or floors away. When I imagine her looking into the rising smoke, the shape she might see there, the shape of a small boy maybe, arms reaching. When I can't stop myself from asking my son's father, asking twice, maybe more, if he will be staying home now, when he says yes, and in the light of the street lamp and the fire truck, I do not recognize in this man the boy I married at 20, thinking we would be in love forever and ever, amen. When they walk away, when I go home, when there is a smoke and no fire, when a woman, thinking of death, offers up a prayer. And that's
okay. Thank you, Jen Murvin. Please, everyone, give a round of applause again for Jen. All right, next up, we will have Associate Director Quintin Collins, introduced by Graduate Assistant in 2018, Brad Temple Lovely. And after that, we'll have faculty member Anne-Marie Oomen, introduced by 2022 graduate Helen Elaine Lee. So let me go to Hello. Thanks for having me. I've known Quintin a long time, so we're going to start at the beginning. Let us start at the beginning, where one fateful night, a second semester Solstice fiction student got bored and decided to cause some mischief. Their original target was a creative nonfiction student who he had previously visited, but she was busy, as her luck would have it. So this second semester fiction student sought out new prey. He didn't have to look far. His prior target's floor mate, a second semester poetry student, was in the dorm innocently thinking he could be productive. That dream was quickly spoiled. A few creeping, scraping claws on the door did not rouse the poetry student to open it. But a quick kick to the unlocked door got the fiction student in. He asked if he could chat with Quintin as if anything else was an option, and quickly made himself comfortable before the poetry student could change his mind. What the fiction student did not know is that they had met their match. Quintin Collins quickly proved himself to be capable of as much tormenting, funny, puns and jokes and quibs as the fiction student was prone to mischief. A quick friendship formed, and it wasn't too long before all of Solstice was in on the scheming and laughing, including late night trips to the soccer field, ruckus drinking games in the student lounge, and a rigged graduation speaker election where both the poetry and fiction students won and spoke together. But Quintin is so much more than his humorous nature lets on. He is a devoted, loving husband and father, and he is a wise and caring. He has the unique ability to balance moments of serious discussion with the levity of a good laugh, while still returning always to the necessary task at hand, no matter how difficult. When I, the fiction student, heard that Quintin would become associate director for Solstice, I was so glad. I knew this program would be in good hands and that others would be able to be guided by his kindness and needed insights. He continues to work hard after our time together at Solstice. Lists of his places of publication are too long to fully highlight here, but I will mention that he was a finalist for the 2020 Redivider Beacon Street Prize, been nominated multiple times for Best of the Net, won the 2019 Atlas Award for the Poets Billow and a Pushcart Prize. He has 2 poetry collections out, and I've heard is quickly working on a third. His first collection, The Dandelion Speaks of Survival, was a finalist for the 2020 Alice James Award and the 2021 Sheila Margaret Martin Book Prize. His second collection, Plane Tickets for Stolen People, was a winner of the Journal's 2020 Charles B. Wheeler Poetry Prize, an honor book for the Black Caucus of America Libraries Association 2023 Best Poetry Literary Award. That is a long title for another. I am honored to welcome my good friend, Associate Director of the Solstice Program, to the stage. Please give him a big round of applause.
Hello. I think move this nice and close so that everybody can hear me. Here we go. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. The child, the child, the child. Spare the rod. Spoil the rod. I'll beat your ass, the rod. I'll beat your ass, the rod. I'll beat the rod. Spare, spoil. I'll beat your ass, the rod, your ass. I was whooped and I turned out just fine. Spoil the child. Spoil the child, spoil the child, spoil the rod. And God said, I'll beat your ass. And God said, the rod, I'll beat your ass. God said, spoil. God said, spare none but Lot, his family. Spare none but Noah and his family. Spare none the rod, the switch, the belt, the extension cord. It's not abuse, it's just discipline. I'll beat your ass like my daddy beat my ass. Like my mama beat my ass. Like my granny beat my ass. Like my granddaddy beat their ass. Like the hand I raised to my daughter. And then withdraw. Spare the child. Spare the child. Spare the child. The rod, the smiting hand I inherited. Spoil the rod. Thank you. I'm gonna read some, so these are all poems from the New Thing in Progress. This first poem is called I'll Beat Your Ass, A Generational Curse, and it's after my fellow alum Daniel B. Summerhill's poem Fear, which is after Kendrick Lamar's song Fear. And so this next poem is called Self-Portrait Askew. which is to say God lacks a steady hand when sketching, which is to say my father gave me his nose, my mama a gallery of ghosts, which is to say I used to heel turn when they speak, which is to say she praised the Lord, none of her children courted illness. Her tenant in childhood, which is to say some fears can't let go, like a mother who can't name what ails her baby boy, which is to say my mama will wedge prayer between me and my undoing, which is to say I learned to listen to my dead grannies when they perch in my dreams, which is to say I know how to love my daughter from the peripheral, to soothe the shudder when another toddler shoves her and she can't understand. Some gestures knuckle lessons into our teeth, and generosity, which is to say my mama said, beat their ass if they put hands on you, which is to say I never did, which is to say I hope my kid doesn't have to inherit a cache of unthrown punches I withheld as she grows, which is to say my doctor assures me the heritability of colitis is negligible. But everyone says my genes are so strong. Says I can't deny my baby with that smirk, which is to say I see my daddy's nose cut above her smile after I dull the latest chisel against her being, everything unexercised. When my mama says she wishes I confess how deeply my suffering mounted to bone, which is to say my roots lack reconciliation with the violence God smudged on my sketch, which is to acknowledge I tremble. Pencil in hand to drag a line, a curve, to stencil an image from my daughter, erase, repeat, repent, which is to say I can't draw past self-portraits that bear a closed fist at the center. So the next poem is called One Day I'll Put My Daughter Down and Never Pick Her Up Again. I almost cradled you beneath the stroller wheel, little bird, a mess of angles and feathers on the sidewalk. Ants and flies adorn your edges. Another bird shakes a branch as it flies off to explore dreams that abandoned your wings in the drop from your nest. When did your mother expect you to return home? Capable, alive, with knowledge of flight. My daughter rumbles against her restraints. She tires of confinement. I hurry her past the questions you leave that I cannot answer. In time, she too will test her flight. A precipice will beckon me. I might push. She might plummet. She might cradle wind and soar. For now, she angles toward me with an open mouth, hungry for an embrace I will eventually know only in memory. And you, your mother mourns what eluded your wings, would have mourned the forgetting of your songs she dreamed you would sing. So this next poem is called Thieves in the Night. The title is a reference to biblical thinking or a figurative language of God coming for the chosen as a thief in the night versus something you can expect. The sky settles like an ocean of blueberry juice squeezed on cosmos. Too much light pollution mires the stars to see their glint. Still, I know they slosh and twinkle beyond infinite space. You cup your hands, ready to transfigure liquid night into curtain drawn wide. How you split red sea, thief in the night to snatch souls of the chosen. Invisible palm arched to pincer through this peaceful evening, assailants also invisible. A string of robberies at gunpoint, break-ins. Once our glove box contents scattered by morning, I triple click my key fob. Grip, head swivel, to eye a mugger stalking my blind spot. Slouch out of the parking lot, intercept a rapture of drunk Boston University undergrads. I digress to their revelry. Heed a sedan and an SUV, cross the street. Could it be now you ease open atmosphere in spacescape, laceration of heavenly light to tractor beam the righteous toward home? I try not to fumble, keys in the lock, Thriller villains and gods punish lost dexterity, twist and push. The door admits my body into the glow of the hallway like a moth, my only companion. Flickering illumination of shadows. Gods and gunmen easy on their trigger fingers. All right, so a little bit about the project, and I'll read the last poem. So I'm looking at some large and small intersections between religion, faith, chronic illness, parenting, and what all those things kind of come together as. And undeniably, because it's who I am, being Black in America is just naturally a part of that conversation. So this last poem is called Every Day I Wake Up and Get Dressed for My Own Funeral. And the title is a line from a poem by Enzo Salon Surin. Some mother said to always wear a clean pair of underwear in case of emergencies in which EMTs need to cut off your pants. And some other mother said dress like every outfit is your last if the funeral walks in lockstep. I iron wrinkles from my jeans, shirts, and chinos. I shine my shoes. I spray myself with cologne. The Star Wars socks indicate I have a morsel of personality, but only on days when I don't sink into sweatpants, of which I own several in the same style in various colors. Underwear is still clean, but I've reclined into remote work. Mornings when I commune with other Black dads at school drop-off, drawstrings cinched around our waist, shared longing for sleep in a moment when we can leave our keys on a nail by the door. We share a laughter devoid of glances over each other's shoulders, reapers in the background rubbing palms, eager to swipe their sides, while I wear an Empire Strikes Back t-shirt with a grease stain. Some mother would remind me of how much we never know whom we might meet, whether death or a CEO with a job offer. Another mother would remind me to starch and press the pall. Truth is, I wasn't listening until Trayvon. Some dying undresses every angle we've groomed and straightened in America. Attire matters little when a cop's badge and bullet whittles all your niceties down to whatever monster arises from the police report. What I'm saying is, the coroner won't know that I ironed collars first, or that I wore sweatpants today after 3 days of slacks, or that my daughter says I look nice regardless what happened. That was never the point. Trimming my beard won't unhitch the casket affixed to my ankles. Salvation does not nestle in the full or half Windsor, not dimple around my neck. The point is, a mother cared enough that I knew to wash my ass before I set foot in a world that will dirty my pleasantries at every turn. And no home or store-bought remedy will resolve certain bloodstains on whites, like I know the other Black dads do. Laugh now, stash a suit in the closet for later. Some mother is my mother. Some mother is my mama. Another mama is my mama, reminding me to lint roll dog hair from uniforms. Another mother straightens a tie and collar on her son's neck in the casket. I need deep pockets for all this dying I must carry. I need a needle and thread for holes at the bottom. Another need creases the button down over my back. Another body dressed in America, bloodied red, beaten blue, white chalk outline. When will it be my turn to don the brutality? If today is my day, this country a custodian for my life story, sweatpants or dress, I'm clothed for the description, death pulling at my sleeves. Thank you.
I'll get one more round of applause for that. Hurry up, that's what I want. All right, now we have faculty member Anne-Marie Oomen, introduced by 2022 graduate Helen Elaine Lee.
everyone. So great to be up here. I was hoping I could make it up here without falling. So people know I just fell down right before. I'm good now. So hi, I'm Ellen Lee, and I graduated in January of 2022 with poetry. It is my pleasure to introduce our next reader, LaSalle University's Solstice MFA in Creative Writing faculty member, Anne-Marie Oomen. Anne-Marie is an accomplished writer in multiple genres. She's a poet, playwright, essayist, and memoirist. Her 4 memoirs are Michigan notable books. Her latest one, As Long as I Know You, the Mom Book, won AWP's 2022 Sue William Silverman Nonfiction Award. Her newest book, The Long Road, is forthcoming from Cornerstone Press. Anne-Marie also authored an American Map, essays, and a full-length collection of poetry, Uncoded Woman. She co-wrote the Lake Michigan Mermaid, A Tale of Poems, with Linda Nemec Foster. She edited a collection of seniors essays funded by the Michigan Humanities Council and has written 7 plays, 2 garnering awards. She's the founding editor of Dunes Review and former president of Michigan Writers Inc. These highlights of Anne-Marie's accomplishments make tangible her open conduit to creativity. Her creative spark makes tangible her creative spark inspires students and peers alike. AMO is also a generous teacher. All good educators intuitively know when to let their students cut loose and when to guide them. Anne-Marie was my mentor for my critical thesis semester, a time often fraught with anxiety. For me, though, her open-minded intelligence and generous spirit allowed her to let me fly, but she was always there in the control tower, ready to land this crazy plane. So please help me welcome Anne-Marie Oomen to the stage.
I have to do this because I'm going to play a little bit with some voices. So I'm hoping that I can move appropriately. Can you hear me? Great. So thank you, Ellen. What a generous introduction. I really appreciate it. That was a great semester. It really was. And thank you to Meg and Q and Temple and Noah and Jennifer and Q again for that incredible reading. And Jennifer, well, are you astonished? Yeah. Astonished? A little intimidated, to say the least. And to all of you for your courage, for being here, for going through this process of becoming a literary artist. I'm just going to read one section of As Long as I Know You, because I've been on Michigan Notable Book Tour for the last 2 months. And to be frank, I'm a little tired of it. And also, you've read or you've heard sections of it for the last 3 semesters. So I'm just going to read a teaser for the new people. This is a love story to my mother. We had a very difficult relationship, and As Long as I Know You is my journey toward her. This is from Cessation, which occurs just after my father has passed away. The world shifts back. We are half orphaned. Our family stands in a hospital room that is a field of silence all about her. She remains mother, parent, elder, and now widow. And distorted love, all of it. And also suddenly I know this more deeply than anything. She is alone. And now an intuition springs from connection that has always been knife sharp between us. Her solitude will be specific, demanding, and mothers should have that. These women who gave us life, who raised us up, who wiped our butts. But hers is beyond me for one simple reason. I have not been a good daughter, and I don't pretend to start now. For one simple reason, the pattern was set long ago and can't be marred by breath or unbreath. Except I know nothing of the work of grief, except I know nothing really of her or of myself. So if you want to know what happens, so I've been inspired by people reading new material and also by working with Ignatius Valentine Aloysius, who is doing some experimental work with multiple voices. So I'm reading something and you're my experimental and you're my guinea pigs. As many of you know, I live near Lake Michigan, where I watch the threats to the lake increase daily, and where water issues in Flint and Detroit and the presence of Pipeline 5 crossing the Straits of Mackinac have given rise to a keen awareness. The water crisis is not simply environmental. The water crisis is linked to economic, educational, and racial disparities. So in an attempt to understand more about water justice, I started to study waves and water work. And then I took a crazy leap. Voices. I'm trying to write poems that give waves a voice, that allow them to speak to us. And then I'm also, just to complicate things, including the voice of a translator. Thank you, Zinnia Orlovsky, for your advice. And the translator is an invented character who hears the voices of waves, but has immense self-doubt because she suffers from thalassophobia, which is fear of open water. And then there's a third voice, the translator's own commentary, essentially her margin notes, her thoughts on her own translation. On the page, you can see this because there's a change in font. But imagine you're the editor and you stumble on this manuscript and you see it as a draft, but you want to consider whether or not to keep the notes as an example of a process. So I'm reading just 3 of the wave poems with translator notes and the margin comments, and I'll signal the poem as right in front of me and the translator to my left, your right, and the personal commentary to the left. We'll see if this works. Thanks for being with me on this. At the top of the page, the editor will read, handwritten, this. The words come, synchronous, subtle, their arrival in underwater vibrations, but without water. Words, but not words as we humans understand, rather an alertness, like curiosity when you know a question is about to be asked and you are waiting for it. Is this important, or is it just, I can't even say. First poem. I, water, awash, stand before a species, born of my own rapids, floods, watersheds, my rain-making sighs, to require of us all an aqueous solution. Translator note. The pronoun I is antecedent to the noun water, but water as it reads is utterly collective, plural. Thus, the relationship to water, of water to waves, but This raises the question, how does one speak as, not for, but as many? At any rate, water has introduced itself. I. How is this? Something that was not self is becoming a self. The act of selfing, the I. Is it a verb, singular and plural? Does it even matter? Oh Lordy, fear that tsunami and the word awash. Translator note, continue. That word, the first wave used, stand, does not exist in wave. They are all standing waves in one form or another, and thus it is an innate word, being so of their nature that standing cannot be separated from being. However, it is the only word that creates the description in human speech. So this word must stand in for waves, uprightness of being. Margin note. Stand. The idea just slays me. Standing up for their existence. What the hell? Why am I even hearing them? Breathe, breathe. Use your words. Tend to the present. Here's my desk. Coffee cold, lamp low, windows black, sound blocked. I cannot see a horizon. I cannot see open water. I am safe. Why now? Why them? Translator note, continue. The other difficult word in this first poem, require, may also mean demand or command, but that consciousness, I felt it happen, attempted to soften itself without losing power. Thus, they have a sense of audience. They know we are here. The question of waves. And how will you answer your children who will need me to answer their thirsts? And who will carry the question we now ask, what did you do with our precious water? For we are yours as you are ours, for each other, each other's, not other. Other cleaves into a word we do not have, and so painful to learn. Translator note. Someone is present in the sounds, can I say that? But because this language never had other, this wave had to invent for itself the pronouns. We, you. The second person point of view in the poem separates us from them, even though the poem itself belies the concept. Strike through. Did they know that when they invented it, that they would separate from each other too? And strike through. Margin note. This all seems really dangerous. My hearing them, their understanding the cost of separating from water's collective being. They were all one. But how is that different from me, from us, and our world? Pronouns, I and you, would force them to conceive that we humans, too, consider ourselves separate from them. Did that final understanding alone force them to speak to us, because we are broken? Why couldn't it have been French or Greek? Those I could be sure of. I want my silence back. Capillaries. You have seen us without seeing us. We are the smallest, most numerous, pitter-patters, tessellated reins of small girls in blue dresses. Listen, listen, we, first light in rhythm. Our murmurs, little poems, insisting, glimmering, and disappearing in your green futures that not knit, loop us inside each other, the scales of fish, designs on mollusk shells, our miniature constancies. Some of us are capable of motion, of moving time. There may yet be promise from that winged word that you have not yet embodied. Forgiveness. Translated them. Capillary waves are the first water motions to develop as relatively regular waves. Their voice consists of uniformly developed movements dissipating rapidly if the wind dies, or developing to more commonly observed gravity waves. Thus, this shortness of breath, these short lines, and for lack of a better word, gentility of tone, they offered, strike through, if I may claim the sweetness here, and strike through, no, they offered a metaphor for change. Margin note. Forgiveness, is that really their final intent? Who can be forgiven for drowning? But even the capillaries know, the small rivers inside us, so small, she was so small. Who doesn't know when someone drowns? Who hasn't seen the fish floating upside down? Forgiveness. Forgiveness to change the brain from its patterns, to change the way we love and fear water and each other. The earth maybe still loves us.
Give Anne-Marie one more line. I have some book recommendations for you later, Anne-Marie. And so we are now to our final reader of the night, guest Helen Elaine Lee, introduced by faculty member Sandra Schofield.
Well, we set the standard. Can you hear me? Yeah, we set the standard for the audiences we all hope for in our lives, that I hope for you. Many of them. I'm, she said, a member of the Solstice faculty, and I'm here to introduce you to Helen Elaine Lee, who has such a beautiful new book. Also a wonderful book. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce her. Her accomplishments, dare I say, are awesome. She is as gracious as she is formidable. She was educated at Harvard College and Harvard Law School. She's a professor of comparative media studies and writing at MIT. We are fortunate that she was one of the pioneer faculty members of the program and continues to attach as writer in residence. It's always a pleasure to see her. Helen has served on the Anne-Marie Oomen board and its Freedom to Write committee. She has volunteered with the Prison Creative Writing program, which she helped to establish. Her empathy for and commitment to incarcerated people is quite practical, but it is also artistic. Her first novel, The Serpent's Gift, was published by Athenaeum, and her second, watermarked by Scrivener. Her new novel, Pomegranate, comes from Atrium Books and follows a woman into and out of prison. Helen illuminates the toll our retributive incarceration system takes on people, and especially Black women, but she also shows what is possible when such people are met outside of the prison with love support. In Pomegranate, an incarcerated woman, Renita, is released from prison and learns to be free again. Renita loves words. She loves stories, starting from when she was a little girl. And the author clearly believes in the power of the word, as every activist has since Jesus. This is literature. This is activism. This is art. Renita is a whole, neat, loving person, a character that you can believe, that you are cheering that she is building a life that is her story. It's my great pleasure. Review to tell you that the reviews are good. The reviews of pomegranate cite her empathy, insight, wisdom, and humanity. Helen models the sensitivity and sensibility of a writer fully awake to injustice, but also serving the lives of others with art. I also want to thank her, she will know why, for the compassion and counsel she has to these 16 years as well. That's really the wonderful life. Thank you.
How about that? It's not. I do have a very soft voice. All right. How's that? Okay, thank you, Sandra, so much for that introduction. It's really wonderful to be with you, old friends and new friends. So I'm going to read two short excerpts from the beginning of Pomegranate. And, it's hard to ask a fiction writer to read for 10 minutes because you can't read a whole chapter. So I'm going to give you two different pieces of the story. In this novel, Renita tells her story of getting out of prison after a 4-year bid for opiate possession and of trying to stay clean, prepare her relationships with her kids, own her love for the woman on the inside who has helped to inspire her, and grapple to accept and tell her full and complex story. And Renita's voice is intercut with that of a third-person narrator who brings alive the history that informs her present tense journey. So first, here's Renita. This is chapter 1, and it's set in February 2019. It is a little hard. I'm doing my best here, but it's a little hard to see and talk. All right. I live my life forward and backward. Seems like my body remembers, but I can't afford to forget. I'll be carrying on, trying to choose right, and then the past comes for me, rumbling from my chest into my shoulders, pushing through my neck and up into my head. I try and answer its call, own where all I've been. Remember, even when forgetting feels like the only mercy. 4 years of captivity, and here I sit on this hard plastic chair, surrounded by cinder block, about to leave Oak Hills, waiting to be thrown back to the world. And I cannot get still. My knees jackhammer, my feet tap, they've got wills of their own. My interlocking fingers steeple and flatten and steeple. I try and empty my mind, but my Oak Hills light thunders to the surface and flashes before me like those shifting pieces of colored glass in the tin kaleidoscope I had when I was 6. Damn, really? On my out day, which is stressful enough. I choose a pomegranate and try to see myself holding it, broken open in my hands. Leathery rind, pointy stalk, jeweled seeds, and I can just about feel the shape and weight of it again when I hear the shout, "Did I say you're free to go?" And I'm surprised to find myself standing up. I look the overseer in the eye. Why give him a name when all I am is inmate? And rein in my anger as I sit my ass back down. It's true what they say about time slowing down the shorter you get.
These last few days have inched by, me hoping and praying I've got it in me to keep doing right. I wait to get back the belongings I came in with, wondering what my stuff will look like to me now. Clothes that no longer fit, cheap leather purse full of what? Lip gloss, suspended license, empty wallet, 2 keys that no longer open anything. Dear God, dear power greater than me, whoever, whatever you are, let me prove I deserve to be a mother to Amara and Theo. Let me handle my business, work my program, stay on track. Keep away from temptation, avoid the people who can pull me down. In here, meetings give you the fellowship that gets you through, and a place to say, to remember you're a human with a story that's got a next chapter. Even if confessing is excruciating, I'll find a meeting and go every day if I have to. Own being powerless and powerful. Choose right. Behind the walls in this concrete desert, everything's regulated and decided for you. All the everyday stuff, the whats and whens. Wake up and go to chow, get your meds, go outside and come back in. Take a shower, go to sleep, line up for this, sit down and wait for that. And all those things that on the outside you do and pay no attention. Behind the walls, there's the high points of your day. Makes me feel like that German shepherd of Jasper's. He named him King and kept him in a chain link corridor. Nobody ever played with him or loved on him. He lived to eat. Buff that floor, scrape those plates, sew labels into these t-shirts, one after another, and then some more. And sew American flags for the folks who hate your kind to jab you with. Improve yourself with classes and groups. All day long, you're told what and when and how, and the cost of defiance too. And you hear the echoes of ancestors whispering that though the best chance of survival may be submission, that could also be the death of you. And love, affection, touch, the stuff that makes your heart keep beating, contraband. Now who, I ask, to keep alive that way? Nothing much grows in here unless you go hard against the script. To keep alive, you gotta choose what you can, small though it may seem. Imagine yourself past the razor wire. Notice those trees and birds way in the distance. Look at the sky and picture it whole. You've got to see yourself free from the demon that rides you, believing something new, something clean can happen after all. Behind the walls, nothing small. And choosing, it's something precious. And it means life might just have some mystery in store for you. I choose you, Maxine once told me, and you're against the rules. Okay, so that's it. That's it. That's a little glimpse of Renita telling her story in her voice. And then from the third person narrator, I'm going to read the novel's preface, a moment of loss and receiving, struggle and wonder. Mama was gone and not gone. She had disappeared into the hospital while Renita was at school, getting tamed and stuffed with facts and equations. And there she lay, immobilized by tubes and wires. Renita had stood beside her hospital bed, watching the blue ventilator bag fill and empty, trying to understand how Geneva Atwater had been felled by something as tiny as a blood clot. She had seen her dying. And after the mourners filed past Renita at the wake, grateful for the phrase that helped them navigate the sudden woe. Sorry, so sorry, so sorry for your loss. She had stood beside the coffin and stared at her mother, lying in its white satin folds like a parody of a fancy gift box display. The shiny wig Daddy knew she would have wanted, low on her forehead like a helmet, skin waxy and mouth pressed shut, eyes closed to her for good now. She had seen her dead, but she heard her mother's voice in the back door alcove at the table in the basement, and now she would never please her, never tell her what she was keeping inside, never love her more than she feared her. A month after the funeral, she sat across from Auntie Jessie, picking at one of the casseroles the church ladies kept bringing. She brought a book to the table, which never had been allowed, but there were fewer shouts and shout nots now that Jesse had joined Daddy at the house until things eased up. He stretched out work as long as possible and escaped to go fishing on the weekends. And both he and Jesse tried to stave off the bloated gloom with food, encyclopedia facts, artificial cheer. Neither one talked about Geneva. Neither one asked Renita about her sadness. That was the family way, and what hurt kept haunting like a hungry ghost. She heard the front door open and close, and there was Daddy in the archway, smiling like a moonlighting jester, chuckling from his belly like he was launching a magic trick. He pulled a dented orb from a brown paper bag, and Renita told herself to smile. She'd seen photos and drawings of pomegranates, but not a real one. Where'd you get that? She asked, more edgy than she intended, and his smile wobbled. Your birthday getting lost in the shuffle and whatnot, I thought, he began. She looked away. Eclipse was more like it. He put the fruit in her hands. There's no making up for what's past, but this year, it's got some surprising and wonderful news buried just inside. Expecting a whole lot of nothing, her fingers studied the scratched and ordinary skin. He said they should wait to open it. Sometimes waiting made things better. You hungry, Lennox? Honey Jessie asked, getting him a plate and listening as he told about the engine repairs and paint restorations that had filled his day. She kept him chattering while Renita muted their voices in her head, turning the pomegranate to take in its flat and faded spots, pressing on the sharp crown at the top. And when she was about to get up and wait on something else, he said, let's open it. Renita peeled back the rind and pried the bloodshot gems from the spongy membrane that held the whole thing together. She was struck silent, awed by the wild design of it and by the little bursts of sour sweet juice from the seeds that turned her fingers red. There was a whole world, strange and crazy beautiful underneath the skin, layer on crooked layer of ruby crystals and chambers like inside a heart. So, thank you. So as I said, like this is this moment of loss and receiving, struggle, and wonder. And what I want to come across here is that buried in our hearts, alongside the losses, is abundance. The beauty around and within us, and the gifts we've been given belong to us. And we may find our hands filled, perhaps through memory and imagination, with what we need. It might be something everyday or seemingly small or ordinary on the outside and wondrous within.
Can we get one more round of applause? It's time to come to the end.
Thank you for our last reader, writer in residence, Helen Elaine Lee. That was poetry prose. That was beautiful. That concludes our reading for tonight. There are books for sale at the table and online. So please check in tomorrow. We'll have another reading at 7:30.